Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report for Wednesday, November the 4th. It is a Thursday football preview highlighting today's edition of the show. We're going to break down all three football games on Thursday night, the two college games. We've got two Mountain West matchups, Utah State and Nevada, along with Wyoming and Colorado State. And we'll also look ahead to Thursday night NFL football. Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers, lots to talk about there. Injuries, COVID-19. Go on down the list. Will the game even be played? It's on track to be played, but hasn't been confirmed yet. So lots to break down on the show today, getting you ready for Thursday night NFL and college football. There were no sports last night, but I think there was a pretty big event that happened last night. I'm not sure exactly if I can recall or remember it. You know, my memory sometimes isn't the greatest. Oh yeah, the absolute shit show and roller coaster ride that was the United States presidential election last night. That's what happened. And look, I'm not going to comment on anything about political opinions and, talk about what the candidates are doing and all the voting nonsense that you're seeing the last 24 hours that's going on. Just strictly from a monitoring the betting lines standpoint during last night's election results coming in. It's talk about fascinating, talk about exciting. And it was just incredible. It was unbelievably fascinating and interesting to see just the incredible line movement we saw throughout last night's results coming in. We saw it was Joe Biden open, as the slight, not slight favorite, but he was around minus 175, minus 200. Then we started to see results come in, middle of the evening last night that were really looking good for Donald Trump. And you saw the number on Trump just suddenly skyrocket. He went from underdog to a favorite. And at one point, he was as high as a minus 700 favorite, to win the election at one point last night, with all the results looking good for him. Florida, Texas were two important states for the Republicans and for Trump. Early in the night, it didn't look so great for him there. Same with Georgia, but things turned around, and North Carolina, but things turned around in North Carolina. They turned around in Texas. They turned around in Florida. Georgia is still being counted as we speak, but Texas and Florida in particular, they went to Trump. And once they did, boy, there was a huge surge. We saw Trump get off to fast starts in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Ohio. He turned it around after a slow start there and won that state. So all of that factored into just this huge surge of money and betting movement coming in on Trump last night, pushing that up to minus 700. But then, the night went on, and all of a sudden it was starting to look like, wait a minute, you know what? All the votes that have yet to be counted in a lot of these states were these mail-in ballots, which are largely Democrat supporters that vote via the mail-in ballot method. And as a result, that's when we started I think the people that were betting at that time that were maybe able to get Trump at a plus price, they figured, well, let's come back and bet Biden at a plus price, because if there's so many outstanding mail-in ballots that need to be counted, and many of them are going to be for him and for the Democrats, then this line's totally inflated toward Trump. And sure enough, it was. I mean, the minus 700 didn't last long. It went down minus 500, 400, 300, 200. And then sure enough, the night ended with Donald Trump in that minus 150 to minus 200 favorite range last night to win the election. And then we see what's happened today, where things are flipping toward Biden. And now all of a sudden, so you basically went in less than 24 hours. Think about this. Biden was like minus 175 to minus 200. Trump then was as high as minus 700. And now you're seeing Biden as high as minus 600, 700 right now as I'm recording this video, with all the results looking favorable for him. So it's incredible line movement. You talk about if you're a lover of arbitrage betting and getting a plus price on both sides. I saw many people on Twitter that took advantage of that last night, and wisely so. But just some incredible line movement, and I thought it was worth discussing, since really that was the thing going on last night. There was no football games. Obviously, basketball, hockey, and baseball are done for a little bit of time. So that was it, the U.S. election, and it had everybody's interest, it had everybody's attention, and certainly from a betting standpoint, a pretty exciting night when you see the incredible swings, like a roller coaster ride in an amusement park, like I said on Twitter last night, with the line movement we saw. with the betting lines for the U.S. presidential election. All right, that was last night. Let's turn back now to sports, and let's turn ahead to Thursday night football. Let's start with the two college games. Let's start with Utah State and Nevada, Mountain West action between the Wolfpack and the Utah State Aggies. Let me just bring up the notes here. There we go. Currently, we've got Nevada 16-point favorites here in this game, total around 56 as in Reno, as they're the home team here in this game. Look, I don't know what Utah State's doing with Gary Anderson as their head coach. This is a recycled old dinosaur of a coach, as far as I'm concerned. Not equipped to lead a team successfully in 2020 in college football. He's one of those old school, I'm not going to be innovative, creative offensively. I'm going to run the football. I'm going to try to win like it's the 1980s. And that style of football rarely works in 2020. And it works even less when you don't have a defense. Because, if you're just going to be run heavy, and try to keep games close, you got to have the defense to get stops on the other side of the football. Utah State doesn't look like they have that defense. I'm shocked at how bad Utah State has played on the defensive side of the football so far this season. This was supposed to be Gary Anderson's specialty. He's supposed to be a defensive guy, and to see Utah State just get absolutely destroyed, in terms of through the ground, or on the ground, through the air. It's both the passing game and the running game that has absolutely chewed up and spit out this Utah State defense in their first two games of the season. Now, I'll give them one little bit of a break here in saying that the first two games were against two of the best teams, maybe the two best teams in the Mountain West Conference. You can't argue that with the fact that they have been dealt with a pretty tough schedule here to begin the season. Utah State, you open against Boise State on the road in the blue turf. You open against San Diego State at home the week after, but still, you weren't even competitive in those games. 0-2 straight up, 0-2 against the spread. They lose 42-13 to Boise, 38-7 to San Diego State. And like I said, their defense, they're giving up 6.6 yards per carry, 289 rushing yards per game. Pitiful. The passing yardage, 221 through the air, 7.5 yards per pass allowed. Good luck trying to shut down Nevada, because Boise State, they've got a great offense, and they put 42 up on the board against Utah State. Carson Strong in this Nevada offense, Jay Norvell, the head coach in Nevada, he's finally got the offense, I think, where he wants it to be. He's got an offense where they've got the quarterback. He's an experienced multi-year starter now. They have a really good offensive line. They have outstanding skill position talent. This is an offense that is right now ready to be absolutely outstanding and be able to put up points in bunches. They have explosiveness. They can run. They can throw. They're a balanced offense. They're going to be a handful here for this Utah State defense. I could see them getting to the 30s, if not the 40s here. I like a lot of what I'm seeing from the Nevada offense. They scored 37 points in each of their first two games, and they're the polar opposite of Utah State from a straight-up and ATS perspective. 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread for Nevada to start this season with the wins against Wyoming and UNLV. Utah State was hoping they were going to get something positive from their offense with Jason Shelley coming over. The Utah transfer as their quarterback, but he's barely completing, not even 60% completions this year. It's been trouble for him. That's an issue. Him against Carson Strong is a mismatch. Carson Strong, how about 6 touchdowns, no interceptions in the first two games? He's been absolutely perfect so far, finding his receivers down the field. I think Nevada is going to be able to score points in this game. I don't want this underdog. This is favorite or pass for me. I think as long as it stays below 17, Nevada is worth some kind of bet, a small one. It's a big number. And you worry because the spot's not great for Nevada. Coming off just a huge win against UNLV. They wanted that game desperately. They had lost 2 years in a row to the Rebels, to UNLV, in the battle for the Fremont Cannon. Nevada went into that game wanting it badly, maybe a mild letdown. So it's not the greatest spot in the world for Nevada, but from a fundamental matchup on the field perspective in this game, they should dominate really offensively over this Utah State defense. The Utah State offense, I think, could put up, 17, 21 points, because Nevada's defense is it's getting better. It's improving, but they're not still that kind of defense that can shut you down. If not for some UNLV turnovers, UNLV probably could have scored more than 19. So I do think the over might be in play here. Current total 56. I do think this game has a chance as well to go over the total. So for me, it would be lean Nevada, lean over with that one. Utah State and Nevada. The late game in Mountain West action on Thursday, Wyoming and Colorado State. Wyoming 3.5-point favorites on the road here in Fort Collins. The total currently in this one right around, let me just, I had the lines up here for a second and say I got multiple notes and screens up all the time. So when one of them closes there, you're just trying to scramble and get everything back, but I'm looking for my live odds screen. Come on back here. There we go. All right, here we go. The total for Wyoming, Colorado State, 52.5 right now. Wyoming laying 3.5 on the road. So I got Colorado State dead wrong last week. No question. One of my bets was Colorado State to beat Fresno State in Fresno. It couldn't have been worse. Couldn't have been more wrong with that than I was. I actually thought Colorado State would be improved defensively. I didn't see it at all from them last week. They got chewed up. They got ripped apart on defense by a first-year starter who was not very good against the suspect Hawaii defense. You remember how Fresno's offense was shut down by Hawaii in their first game? They did nothing. That same offense shredded, picked apart Colorado State's defense last week, both through the air, on the ground. Colorado State had no answers. Steve Adazio, the head coach, I'm already worried that this hire could blow up in their face. I actually thought, after being at Temple, Boston College, it didn't go perfectly there, but now you're taking a step down in class job. Maybe this is your opportunity to show that, hey, I can make it happen. He couldn't have had his team less prepared for a first game of the season than they were last week. Turnovers, penalties, terrible defense, and he decides to go with his heart and his affection for a guy that played for him when he was coaching at Temple, or was recruited by him at Temple, Todd Centeio, naming him the starting quarterback last week over Patrick O'Brien, who was actually, I thought, pretty solid, in the starting quarterback spot for Colorado State last year when he got the chance to play. And he went with Centeio, who was supposed to be, because he wants a more run-heavy quarterback. He wants a run-heavy offense, and he wants the quarterback that can run a little bit better. Well, Centeio was terrible. He was awful. He didn't even run the ball that well. And in terms of throwing the football down the field, forget it. He was totally inept trying to throw the football downfield. He was missing receivers all over the place. There wasn't anything to like about Colorado State. They didn't just lose to a Fresno State team that's rebuilding. Fresno State team that got dominated at home by Hawaii the week before. And then right here, they blow the doors off Colorado State. And it was not a fluky final score. They completely dominated Colorado State. I don't want Colorado State here. My one fear is, watch me jump on Wyoming here and fade Colorado State because of them looking so bad last week, and watch them somehow, look great and get the win here. And Wyoming on the road is not Wyoming at home. If I'm going to bet Wyoming, I'm going to prefer them at home, like last week when they took care of business against Hawaii in that victory at home. Craig Bull's team, run the football, just so good defensively, but especially in that home field, that environment in Laramie. That is a strong home field advantage. They haven't been quite as good on the road. Both of these teams play in altitude, so there's really no advantage there. Levi Williams has been decent at quarterback. I think he could still play better for injured Sean Chambers for Wyoming, but here we go again with this Colorado State team. They insist on being this run-heavy offense, and Wyoming can stop the run. So you would think matchup-wise, unless they throw O'Brien in there again tomorrow night, the better pocket passer, and try to throw the ball more, because the secondary is probably the slightly weaker link of the defense of Wyoming, then Colorado State matchup-wise is probably in a little bit of trouble here in this game yet again. So, yeah, I'm off the Colorado State bandwagon for a bit. I took my lumps with a dead wrong ticket last week on them. I'm staying far away from this game. It'll be Wyoming or pass, but yeah, I'm just going to completely stay off the game, and let's see if Colorado State can look any better than they did last week, because they're going to have to, or else this is going to be a long night. Wyoming on paper to me better than Fresno. And if Colorado State doesn't play any better than they did last week, they're in trouble here. All right, NFL football tomorrow night. It's Green Bay at San Francisco. Thursday night football. Boy, we've had a lot of developments here heading into this game on Thursday night. Let me just check it out here with Green Bay and San Francisco. Looking for the current line here in this game right now. It is Green Bay, 6.5 point road favorites, 49.5 the total. You look, if you got Green Bay early when they were 3.5, 4, even when it got to 5.5, great number. I'd probably stick with it. I think Green Bay wins this game. It looks like they're going to play this game. Obviously, there's tons of issues on both sides of the ball from an injury perspective, but especially for San Francisco. We know Jimmy G's out indefinitely, George Kittle out indefinitely, COVID-19 positive tests detected early today in San Francisco. They shut down their practice facility. They're getting tests done. Kendrick Bourne, the wide receiver, was one of those confirmed positive COVID-19 tests for the 49ers. They're unbackable to me, not in this spot. And Green Bay, it's Rodgers off a loss where he's been, I think, 30-19 against the spread in his career. It's playoff revenge for losing to the 49ers last year. You know, to me, I'm not going against Green Bay, but now that it's 6.5, I'm not rushing to bet Green Bay now at this number. No way. Matt LaFleur said it, and you can see why he said it earlier this week after what happened against Minnesota and the Vikings over the weekend. The run defense is an issue, okay? It is a significant problem. They are in another one of those ruts, Green Bay, and kind of reminds me of the playoff game with these two teams last year where they know the run is coming. They know the team is going to run the football. They knew Dalvin Cook was going to run the football a lot last week, and they still couldn't stop it. They know what's coming, and they still can't stop it. And it's the same thing we saw against San Francisco in the playoff game last year. That's an issue. And now that Nick Mullins is the quarterback here for San Francisco and not Jimmy G, guess what the 49ers are going to be doing in this game? Yeah, you know what they're going to be doing. Running the football as much as they possibly can. And they're without a bunch of running backs like Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson. They're all injured. So you're down to JaMychal Hasty and Jerick McKinnon as your two running backs. But I don't think that's going to deter Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers from just daring this porous, horrendous Green Bay run defense from showing they can stop the run. It's something they have not been able to do this season. When you can run the football with success, you keep the chains moving, you get first downs, you keep Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense off the field, and you stick around in games where you're now almost a touchdown underdog. That's your formula. Keep the Packers off the field and run the football with success. If they do that, they're going to make Green Bay's not going to get as many possessions, and they're not going to have as many opportunities to win this game by a touchdown or more, which is now the margin Green Bay is going to have to win by in order to cover this number. I'm uncomfortable with that now. So for me, it's a no play. I don't want San Fran here in this spot with Green Bay coming off the loss to Minnesota. Rodgers off a loss is good. The Packers off a loss since Matt LaFleur's taken over has been a really good bet. And they could pick apart San Fran's defense a little bit through the air, but San Fran can run if they can run the football, and I get a sense they still might be able to here, even with them being down to JaMychal Hasty and Jerick McKinnon at running back, then they can keep Rodgers off the field and maybe hang around in a game. You know, it wouldn't shock me if Green Bay wins this game, but only wins it by 3 or 4. You know, and there's San Francisco just hanging around all night. So I'm not comfortable now at 6.5, laying this amount of points here with Green Bay in this game. I think this game could go over the total, 49.5, but that's still a high number because in theory, Green Bay should have success offensively. And if San Francisco commits to the run, which I think they should have success offensively because Green Bay still can't stop the run. So offenses on both sides should have success, which is why it points me to over. But 49.5, you're going to get a deliberate pace from San Francisco, run heavy game plan probably offensively. It's just a high number. You know, if it's in the mid 40s or 46 even, yeah, I'm interested definitely in the over at that number. 49.5. It's a little higher than I wanted, but I would still lean to the over here in this game. Packers and 49ers. And like I said, for me, it's a Green Bay or pass side, but 6.5. No, I've lost the value to me. If it's already moved, 2.5 points toward Green Bay, and there's enough concerns about that run defense where the back door is always open here, potentially for the 49ers. So, but that's my thoughts on the Thursday night game, Packers and 49ers from a prop standpoint. Rush attempts, rush yards props for either of those two 49ers players, JaMychal Hasty and Jerick McKinnon, make a lot of sense to me, player props wise, for that Thursday night NFL matchup with Green Bay and San Francisco. All right, that'll wrap up this edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report for Wednesday, November 4th. Tomorrow we'll be back. We'll do the Friday college football preview on tomorrow's show. Reminder to check out pubsportsradio.com and the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel every day. Great content, great shows, live betting shows. We've got, Boston Nick, Mo, Connor Mack, Razor Sharp. You go on down the list. There's tons of great. You've got Slaughter doing Talking Hands, the MMA show. There's just tons of great content here on the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel. Make sure you keep tuning in on a daily basis. That'll wrap up this show. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the Maction taking place. Maction football kicking off on this Wednesday night. Good luck with all of your wagers. Thank you for tuning in, and I will be back with you tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report.